All right, folks, welcome back to the infamous project. This is going to be a dedicated video to the one and only Tom, aka War Admiral. And if you guys follow him on his Instagram or the 50 Asylum podcast, you would hear on that podcast that he is constantly getting razzed about buying and building this white DECH notch that's sitting here right behind me. So I think Tom's starting to feel the pressure. And you know what? He's just been pretty much obsessed with my other white DECH notch ever since I let him drive it from the Chocolate Fox, not last year, 2 years ago. He just never stopped talking about it, says he wants another car. I told him he can only win so many awards and shows with the War Admiral and that it's time to build another one. So this is the car that I've had sitting, maybe not right here, but definitely in this vicinity for 3.5, definitely 3 years, maybe 3.5. And it has come pretty much the way that you see it now, with the exception of I've pulled a lot of the parts and everything else out of the car so that I can go into detail. Now this video is going to be sent straight to Tom so that he can see firsthand the condition of the car. Is it worth building? Because it's pretty difficult sometimes when you want to do a build, and if you can't put your own eyes on it, it's hard to commit. But this is a super clean car with the exception of one thing. And that one thing is something that you will hear me talk about, which I am never a huge fan of, and that is shaved engine bays, especially the ones that you don't know how they were done and what was used, and most importantly, what was underneath. Now, thankfully, I do know the condition of this car and what was underneath. However, the Scott Rod panels, and you can see a whole bunch of Dynaglass, aka fiberglass filler, and there's Bondo, and we're going to go through it. So we're going to talk about that, and that being the number one hiccup slash downfall to this car. Now that can be fixed, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But this car was a running and driving car 5 years ago, maybe 4.5 years ago, and then the individual that had it started tearing it down. I believe, did his motor blow by or something?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so the individual, it was a boosted motor, your Vortex stuff, HCI, and I'm pretty sure he was having some blow by or wasn't running right, so he went down the rabbit hole, guys, and just started tearing everything apart. Now, the first time I saw the car, I actually ended up buying some original DECH suspension goodies off of it, which included the front coil springs and the ultra rare DECH floating rotor front brake setup. And that ended up on my white notch. So this is not a numbered DECH car, but this is a documented DECH car. And as I move around things here, this is a folder of receipts and invoices and everything else to the car. And you can see here, DECH. So this was like alignment, rotors and pads, checking brakes, correct door lock problems. So DECH also did a lot of servicing and maintenance to Foxbodies, as well as the modifications that were performed. So here you can see the DECH front rotor setup, anti-strut brackets, or anti-squat brackets, sorry, which would be your DECH grabber setup. And we have like fluids and tanks, we have rotors and springs, DECH springs. Here we go, $647, discounted down to $549. So that's actually pretty expensive for springs in the grand scheme of things, because this is dating back to April of 1993. What else do we have here? DECH front system with the master cylinder, proportioning valve. So this is all the front brake stuff when it was originally installed. You're $1,900. So this wasn't cheap stuff back in the day. What do you got here? Motorsport arm, upper rear arm, differential bushings, upper radiator hoses. What is this? Mod existing radiator plus DECH system. I don't even know what that means, but it was $537. New clutch. Oh, Mac Cats had a Mac exhaust on it. Well, that didn't come with the car. Well, I'm a little upset. And guys, if we actually add up some of these invoices, like I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to this. $300, that isn't that much. $1,000, so that's $1,300. 1,200, 2,500. 2,000, 5,500. Another 2,000, 7,500. Another 1,200, 8,700. Another 2,000. We're over 10 grand. Another 1,700. So what? 11,700. Let's forward. 12,700. Round it up. Let's call this like $13,000 in mods from 1993 to 1995. This we have crane valve springs and retainers. This is all cam, Velcro gaskets. All right, and then we're getting a little newer here. I think this might be in the 97. Auburn differential, 355 gear set. So that would actually still be in the car to this day because that wouldn't have changed. Another $1,000, so over 14,000. What else do we have here? Upper rear spring, insulators. I think we might have got a different set of springs here. So there we go. New clutch, another $1,600, lube, oil, emission. All right, and then we have DeSilva Racing, Paxton supercharger kit, $2,800. Receipts from Ford, more from DeSilva. So you guys get the idea here. Seriously maintained and documented car. And yeah, 225 in-tank fuel pump. We even have the old receipts from when the car was changed hands here. Emission test pass. So there we go. Documentation. It's always nice to have it. Actually, what's even cooler, which I should show you guys. Not that I'm trying to bore you guys with documentation, but this is technically Tom's video anyways. So in Ontario, we have these things called used vehicle packages, which tells you how many owners the vehicle has had. So in this case, Mr. Herman Shim owned it, then Perry Shim. Now this is the guy who had it for most of its life. An individual, actually Cassius, that used to work for DeSilva, knew Perry, and he had this car for quite a while. So you can see here that this is probably his dad bought it for him or whatever back in '89, and he had it up till '94, and then we put it into his name. So he had this car pretty much since it was new, and then it was actually put into his name, and he owned it up until 2014. So pretty long history of that original owner who did the majority of everything that we see in this folder. So that is pretty cool. Now, you're gonna see here, and I don't know if you can see it in the light, this car is white with a blue pearl, so it has been resprayed at one point. Car has always been white, but did have that respray, and most likely when the DECH kit was added. All right, so we got the DECH kit that is not molded in, right? Like it's maybe they had a little something that they rubbed in there, but it's not, you know, filled up and completely molded in. You can see here it's butt right up against the door molding. And sometimes people mold these right into the rocker panels. And they did put something, almost like they might have just rubbed a little bead of silicone or something, but that'll be easy to get out. It'll just peel right out. And interior, super clean. This door panel was off, so I've just kind of temporarily put it back on. But, right? I believe this car has maybe 70,000 miles, if that. All the window run channels, this is all original stuff. So slight crack, but like nothing that you would even care to worry about. Window moldings, a little bit of work needed there, but nothing crazy at all. So here's the dash pad and everything, super nice shape. Had something leaning up against there a little bit, but you can tell there had some gauges in the dash. Had some tweeters aftermarket tweeters installed, but no tabs are broken on the dash. I know, Tom, you wanted to make sure that all the plastics of the car and everything else were included. So we're going to go through that in a sec. Trunk mounted battery. So the battery box is in there. It's going to be hard to see in here, but there is definitely, I guarantee, no rust whatsoever. All the trunk plastics and panels are here, and they are actually in really good shape. No rust. No rust, no rust. That's just the seam sealer coming off. But I promise you there's no rust there. That bolt is incorrect, but that's an easy fix. Look, LED bulbs. All right. Carpet, rear wood piece. Here is the air box, right? So with the climate controls and everything, that look in really good shape. No sun fading or anything. And I'm actually going to show you something else. All the little things that you can look for that can tell a car was very well taken care of and stored properly, like these brackets for one. Notice how these are like actually metal color and they're not all rusted. That's a very good sign of the way a car was stored. And I'm going to show you guys right now some other stuff on how you can tell that. So if you look at, for instance, this driver's side armrest, okay? Yeah, the padding is a little worn, but it's not, you know, this isn't separated here. If you look, just look at the color of the wires, and then look and see at the paint on the buttons and the switches. Now, these are notorious for lifting up right here from factory, right? But you can see just by that this trim isn't cracked or broken, and that, you know, all of this paint it hasn't been used. It hasn't seen heavy traffic, and you can still read everything quite nicely. Moreover, when you look at other harnesses, right, like look at this wiper motor, how clean that is. Headlight harness. This is one that usually suffers. It ends up getting, you know, leaky power steering fluid or oils or anything else that's usually leaking on a motor. This stuff usually ends up nasty. Like especially these guys, the turn signals. You know, like it's a little dirty, but this will clean up so nice and be nice and original. Ground strap is even, right? Usually that's a telltale sign of how crusty things can be. Got I think that's a new clutch cable. Car has Flowmaster 2 chambers, and it was, I believe, 3-inch tailpipes, but I sold the tailpipes, so I'm sorry to report. Tailpipes not included on the car. But yeah, let's just look here. You can see quarter windows, real nice shape, right? Floor, all dynamatted inside. All of the previous sound deadening has been removed. You can see how clean the body and everything else is there. Parcel shelf, rear plastics, right? Door panels. Again, this window must have been down and got some water on it here. So one thing that we're gonna have to do is, you can see he filled up for where the AC evaporator lines have come out, so that needs to get popped back out. Wiring harness hole, right, that's been filled. The drain for the HVAC has been, or the heater box has been filled, so we'd have to pop that stuff back out. And again, you can see, I think the patches have been glued, because I feel like if this was welded properly, well, I guess he painted on top, so who knows how that was all sealed up. But I know that the floor has no rust whatsoever. The dash frame, here's another one, guys. See how this is more of a metal color than a rust color? Again, very good sign that on how the vehicle was stored and low miles, because usually these end up with a lot of moisture and condensation. You'll see a lot of rust on these guys. So that pretty much does it for the interior of the car. Headliners there, sun visors are there. It's all here. Everything is bagged and tagged in that blue bin. So there's all the screws, all the hardware, everything else that belongs to this car. The only thing this car doesn't have is carpet and seats, but everything else is included. Shifter boot. Actually still had the Ford headlights. All right, Ford stamp there. I think it has clear corners, if I remember correctly. A little bit yellowed, but they're there. It's all the wiring harness for the car. Everything labeled. Steering column, so we got the DECH Monte Carlo Momo steering wheel. And see how nice the connectors and the clips and the wires and everything are. So again, just a testament to low miles. Like, see this, how clean that is. We got a lot of new parts. So that is the boot that goes through the firewall for this. Got all of the little rubber grommets, brand new kit. All right, triangles for the power mirrors. This is a fully power car, by the way. Here's the power steering bracket and hardware. Everything, like I said, bagged and tagged. Ready for assembly. Lower radiator support, mint. Never been clipped or hit or pulled up too far up to a curb, so that's super clean. But here, let's talk about all this fiberglass here, all right? As nice as some of these shaved engine bays can look, I guarantee you over time, you would see some cracking here, probably some here. Something had happened in these areas. You can see just the globs of like seam sealer and everything else that was done. Now this side was finished off a little bit more than that side was, but the amount of filler on there is way too much, and like in here. So the way to fix this is honestly sand it all off. All right, get back to our holes. And the one thing that sucks about these panels is the fact that here's the original inner. Actually, this is the driver's side because there's the horns. All right, so this is the piece that was originally there. You can see there's a big hole there. I'm not sure if that was from an intercooler setup or whatever they had going on down through here. So, all right, we could either replace the front inner aprons up here and cut out the Scott Rod stuff, or come up with a new plan. But that is the unfortunate part. The worst part about the car is this shaved engine bay stuff. So we can get that cleaned up. Nothing that can't be fixed. Pick panel, windshield washer fluid. What else do we got here? You know, headlight cluster bezel. Tall skinny guy. Hood's over there. So that is the story on this car, and it's not an undercoated car. The underside is as white and clean as the top side is. So you don't have to worry about any frame rail rust or anything like that. The door posts, all the spots you got to look for. Like, look at that, not a speck of rust in there. Again, like even this crossover bar here, like very rarely do you see them like this. They're usually rusty. So very, very clean. And actually the proof is right there. Like, Tom, you should buy the car just because of that. Like, you don't find Fox bodies with doors that close like that every day. So there you have it. This is the car that you should buy and you should build and make awesome and win potentially even more shows with something else. Or imagine you had them both parked beside one another, right? More the merrier. Anyways, till next time, catch you back.